What's going on underneath that trolley?
Well, what we did was we decided when the trolley project was evolving a few years ago, approximately 4 years ago, that if the trolley was going to open up all the streets and lay track, why wouldn't we go ahead and lay a gigabit fiber optic system at the same time as a economic development initiative? So we started that 4 years ago. We went through a feasibility study process. We eventually put a not-for-profit board in place, which is called the Loop Media Hub. And as of a week ago, we submitted our finished design for the entire system to the trolley.
Before you explain the benefits or what it might be able to do, explain what we're talking about. I'll open this up to both of you when we're talking about this gigabit. I think maybe the most recent example people have heard of is Kansas City and Google Fiber. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, on a very small scale. So what's unique about the Loop, or I should say, everybody's heard about Kansas City, this huge deployment, 2 cities, 14 municipalities, hundreds of millions of dollars. It's really a next generation cable TV environment. So over here in St. Louis, we're looking at this. What can we do on a very small scale, very inexpensive, that's going to have the right recipe in the right neighborhood, the right amenities, organizations, and resources to create really high economic development impact. And in the Loop, that happens, economic development impact happens because it will attract companies, data-oriented companies, social media companies, healthcare, education companies who want to develop the next round of internet applications.
Because the internet is that much faster in that part of town.
Yes.
I think I've heard you use the word boutique.
Yes.
In terms of versus the entire area getting it. So how does Highland come into this conversation?
Highland has a gigabit system that is available to 80% of our residents, and all businesses are able to connect to it at this point in time.
Help people get a grasp. Highland's about what, 45 minutes to the east of St. Louis?
30 miles.
30 miles east of St. Louis. How big of a city is it?
10,000.
And you said 80% have what we're talking about trying to do, or what Kansas City is trying to do.
They have the ability to connect to our system, which is a true fiber to the premises FTTP system. So they're
super high speed internet going to individual homes.
Yes, and businesses.
And who's doing this?
We actually have a penetration rate of about 40%, which is pretty darn good, actually. We've got several businesses that we've been able to retain simply because we have this fiber available.
But the city itself is doing it, is that right?
The city itself is doing it.
So internet as a public utility almost.
Yes, and the city of Highland has its own municipal power. So they've had that for many, many years. And in Illinois, you're able to do a fiber system if you have the municipal power.
And how is it being received? How are people using this in their homes?
Yes.
And they're willing to pay for it?
Yes. In Highland, you can get, we'll talk about residential first, you can get a 20 meg connection, and it's a symmetrical connection, which means it's 20 up and 20 down, which is and David, you can speak to, that's not typically the way the providers provide the service. It's usually your upload speed is much lower than the download speed. That is available for $19.95.
So that sounds amazing. Let's pretend like I don't even know what those numbers mean, and we're not exactly pretending. Why is this such a great thing for the city of Highland or for the Loop? What's the advantage of this?
Well, so far the city of Highland has this project went for a referendum before the voters. 78% of the voters voted for this to bond this project out. Pretty incredible, pretty impressive. So the commitment has been honored to those residents so far to build out the system and focus internally. Now that we're at the 80% build out, we're starting to, be like, yes, hey, we do have this, and turning our attention outward and using it as a traction piece.
Someone on Twitter just said this is some of the most important work in our region. Robin Wabi said that. Why would Robin say such a thing?
Well, we're entering into a new paradigm. We've left the industrial age center of city and suburban areas. We're moving away from that now. St. Louis is becoming an exceptional region of innovation districts and innovation neighborhoods, and they're just starting to percolate up. So we know about Cortex, which is an institutional view of that. And then the Loop is developing into an innovation neighborhood with Loop Media Hub, Loop Data Rail. And then right behind that is Grand Center and Washington Avenue. These will become these centers, the new factories of creation, starting up new companies and innovation. And that's really what we're going to be about. We have to find a way to bring that story together, brand it, and we'll gain national and international attention because every city's looking at the right form of how to do this. And we seem to be doing it organically, which is the most important part of this.
I feel like, go ahead, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
and I was going to say that press that you were just talking about getting noticed, that's something that St. Louis is starting to have going for it. The St. Louis tech scene has been written up on the Huffington Post, Fortune.
Stay tuned, STL.
Yes, absolutely. Business Weekly, Forbes. I mean, this is national press that the St. Louis area is now getting for this tech scene that's being created.
So how do we get everybody excited about this? If this is kind of like the first time some people are hearing about this, if getting high-speed fiber in the Loop and other places, and I'd not heard that Highland was doing this, how do we get people on board if this is so important?
We recently changed our direction in planning. We had originally been planning to wait for the trolley to be built, and then once fiber was available, we would deploy wireless. That's taken 4 years for us to get to this point. So we decided recently to lead with wireless, and we're actively working on a plan for gigabit wireless in the Loop right now. And part of that planning is to have it in the large theaters and restaurants. So when we release our plan and we're ready, we're going to invite the entire community into the Loop and experience the difference for themselves in theaters and restaurants and outside on the streets. And then as the trolley is built, the fiber will come back later and we'll add that capacity in too.
And see, I think that we need to have as many voices as possible speaking a consistent message.
Yes.
And the message needs to be, we want you here, and we're willing to build the infrastructure and create the environment to make that happen.
Okay.